TG Geeks, episode 271, April 27th, 2020. A universe of paranormal fiction. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona, where we are the stay-at-home cat parents.
And I'm Ben Raggington, coming to you from a place where it is almost summertime. It's only April, and it's like over 100 degrees already here in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's killing me. Let's get on with it.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Well, in this episode, we have got an interview with Gail Z. Martin.
I have been so wanting this interview for a long time.
Yeah, Ben did a review of one of her books recently.
Actually, I've done two reviews.
A couple of reviews. So we'll talk to Gail, and she writes under Gail Z. Martin and Morgan Brice. So that's the universe, and you'll find out more about that. Then we're going to have our birthday shout-outs. We tried to keep it a little short this time, since we regularly run out of time. Oh, dear. It just, there's too many interesting things and interesting people. So we may have to ask Gene if we can do an hour and a half instead of an hour.
Maybe, just so we can take
just
in
so we
all
can
the
have
birthdays.
and a second segment.
Or maybe just do another episode that's all about birthdays.
There you go. Then we're going to have our featured podcast, or this week it's not a podcast of the week. Then we have some feedback and our shout-outs. In the second segment, we have a couple of things to talk about.
That we wanted to talk about, but haven't been able to.
And then weekly recap and a regular shout-out. So let's get on to talking to Gail. And this time we welcome to our show an author, Gail Z. Martin / Morgan Brice. Yes, she does have a split personality, and this is her. We welcome you to the show, Gail. Morgan.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Great. So why don't you, for those that don't know you, Ben knows you significantly. He's read
at least 10 of your books already.
At least
now.
10. So
I'm late to the game.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I haven't read any. I've been off on my own track of reading several other authors and sci-fi and whatnot like that. So we occasionally cross streams, so I'll probably get to some of your books eventually. So why don't you tell us who is Gail Z. Martin / Morgan Brice, and how did you get into writing, and how did you discover this split personality that you have?
Sure. Well, as Gail Z. Martin, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, some steampunk, some near-future post-apocalyptic. And as Morgan Brice, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. So they're really more connected than you think because of that urban fantasy paranormal piece. And in fact, all of my urban fantasy modern series as Gail and Morgan cross over with each other. The characters show up in each other's books. They know each other. They work with each other. So that becomes kind of a big expanded universe.
Wow.
As far as how I got into it, I've wanted to be a writer since I wanted to be a writer as a profession since I was 14 and found out that you could actually do that as a job.
Oh, my.
Just you're
actually making money at it?
It hadn't occurred to me that people did that. You know, where do writers come from? Where do the books come from? I hadn't really questioned that before.
Right.
And I realized, wait, people write them. That's what they do. You know, that's what they do. I said, well, I'm going to do that someday. Right. And, but, you know, I wrote, quote unquote, my first story when I was 5. It was about a vampire because I absolutely loved the TV show Dark Shadows. And I always felt...
You're dating yourself.
I am.
Well, which Dark Shadows are we talking about?
Yeah.
The NBC reboot or the original with Jonathan Frid?
Everything except that execrable movie.
Oh, thank you.
Well, there were two.
I think she's talking about the Johnny Depp movie.
Oh, that.
Yeah. No, I fell in love with the original. What my mother was letting me watch it as a preschooler for, I have no idea, but it definitely pointed me in this direction.
Yay, Mom!
And I absolutely loved the 1991 remake, but of course, it got truncated because of the first Persian Gulf War, and we never got to see the rest of it.
And how awesome was Benjamin Cross as Barnabas?
He was very awesome, but fun fact, I went back and rewatched it, and they must have not had a budget to shoot at night because it is very clearly shot with filters. Either that or they have the brightest moonlight that casts these shadows like it's noon.
Which, if it was a vampire, I mean, they're supposedly bright moonlight is supposed to be deathly as well.
Well, I guess then you have to call the show Bright Shadows.
Right, there you go. So I've loved this stuff for a long time. When I was a kid, I picked up a book of regional ghost stories when we were on vacation, and I read that book until the cover fell off.
Oh, dear.
And so I've always bought books when I'm on vacation about all the regional ghost stories and urban legends. The apple really doesn't fall far from that tree. This is kind of who I've been all my life, and I just love writing this stuff.
That is incredible.
Okay, so that explains a lot about the urban paranormal fantasies that I've been reading because with the reviews that I've written, especially the review that I posted a couple of weeks ago about, with Deadly Curiosities, one of the things that I just really loved is the depth of research that you put into these books. I mean, how does this passion come about?
Well, it was the ghost stories. It was Dark Shadows. It was I've just always been excited about that. When I was in high school, I dragged my parents to Salem, Massachusetts, because I wanted to go through the Witch Museum, and that has all just fascinated me throughout my life. And so it's really been a lifelong research project. I've got a very interesting library of all kinds of books. Writers always joke that if somebody dies and the police come, they're going to look at the library we have and go, she seemed like such a quiet person until the police have shelves full of books on the occult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Was she a closet serial killer or what?
Closet witch doctor.
Exactly.
There you go. But, I've just always been fascinated with it. My undergraduate degree by intent was in medieval history because I wanted to be able to write epic fantasy.
Oh, cool.
And I got my MBA in marketing because that was my side gig and I wanted to be able to afford copy paper.
There you go.
So, yeah, I've been studying this stuff. Study sounds like such a dry word. I read this stuff for fun and have been all my life. So that's what I draw on when I write. I love to give you monsters that aren't your usual monsters or that are a little different twist on your usual monsters.
Right.
And that makes it fun for me and hopefully fresh for you as a reader.
Oh,
Right.
It certainly does for me. One of the things that like I said, I just love about these books, aside from the way that they're so very much connected in such an intelligent way, is the amount of research that has gone into it. I find that for me, it not only is it a refreshing take, there is a different type of world building that is taking place now. When you start talking about like Lucinda, for example, and the magic, the West African spirit magic, if I understand that right, that she works on. These are things that I don't really understand or I've never heard of before, and to see how they operate, the mechanics of that within these universes or within this universe and these different books is, I think, well, that plus the characters are really compelling, is one of the things that just continually draws me back, and that's why I've just been devouring everything that you've been putting out. So when you started working on the urban horror paranormal fantasy, where did that spark come from? I mean, this particular series, what was it? Deadly Curiosities? Was it Badlands? Was it Spell, Salt, and Steel? I mean, because this universe is absolutely amazing, and I tell everybody who reads our stuff, reads our articles, you need to check out her work. How did you stumble into this particular storytelling?
Well, and thank you very much. I'm thrilled when. I throw these tales out into the void, and I hope somebody reads them. And so it's wonderful to find out that somebody's enjoying them. So thank you. Deadly Curiosities came about because I went on a business trip to Charleston. I'd never been there before, and I fell in love with the city. And I'm looking around going, it's one of the most haunted cities in North America. It's got this marvelous architecture. It's got this really rich, complex history. And I immediately went out and I searched to see if there were any urban fantasy series set there, and there weren't at the time. There's still very few. Where everybody has vampires in New Orleans, everybody has vampires in Chicago or St. Louis or New York. Nobody was using Charleston. It was such a perfect location, so I kind of planted my flag and said, "It's mine now." Of course, Jordan L. Hawk does the wonderful Spectre series that started in Charleston and has now moved to New Orleans. But that's where Deadly came from. And then I looked at it and said, well, if it's going to be set in Charleston, the characters, the situation, the setting has to be organic to Charleston. What makes sense for a Charleston setting? And, of course, an antique shop is perfect. And, of course, who would she know? She'd know the people who ran the tours, and she'd know the coffee shops, and she'd know the people in that King Street and City Market arena. And then you look at, well, what's the culture there? And you've got the Gullah culture with hoodoo. You've got the enslaved individuals coming through the busiest slave port in America, coming from the islands, who would have brought their voodoo with them. And while we associate voodoo with New Orleans, surely people would have gone back and forth. They would have married and moved. They would have brought their servants with them. It was absolutely there in Charleston, even though we don't associate it that way. And that's where all of that just kind of grew up. I love using real places as the location, and then I love using the urban legends and the hauntings and the history of those places, because I want the place to be a character, and I want the stories to be something that couldn't happen the same way anywhere else.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So I think our big 22-pound black cat knew you were talking about black magic, because he just decided to jump up on my lap.
Yeah, we have a big Maine Coon. He's a monster.
He's not a Maine Coon. He's just a big panther.
He's a Black Panther. What can I say?
Anyway.
So did the whole thing start with Deadly Curiosities? Because you've got, I know that, like with Badlands, I mean, that's got a connection to it. Plus, your character Vic, he's from Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And then you got your Night Vigil series that also happens in Pittsburgh. So I find it's almost like I could draw a line down a map, and it's seeing where all these little stories are taking place. I mean, so when did you decide to split these things off?
I think what he's asking is, what was your first book?
The first urban fantasy book was Deadly Curiosities.
Okay.
And in terms of the other locations, we lived in Pittsburgh for 10 years. I love the city. And the Spell, Salt, and Steel series that you mentioned, that's in northwestern Pennsylvania, is where we're originally from.
Aha.
So that has been fun, just revisiting all those areas that have such a rich story to them. And I try to pick locations that I have either visited a lot or lived in, so that I can reflect the vibe of the place, because you have to know a place to get the feel for it. So Cape May, which is the setting for the Treasure Trail series, the Morgan Brice series, is Cape May, New Jersey. And we were up there for our oldest daughter's wedding. And I just absolutely fell in love with it again and said, all right, there's going to be another series here because this is just a great place and nobody's using it. So that's kind of where the places come from. That's part of the fun for me is the research.
Interesting.
Then you got all this wonderful cast of characters, and one of the things that I really love about them is that they really each have their own voice, and they're so well defined. So
here it comes.
Yeah, here comes the big question.
The question he asks
I asked
everybody.
Every writer. Given the amount of time that you have spent working with each of these characters, when you start writing the story, has it reached a point for you where now the characters are beginning to dictate to you what they're going to say, and does it even get to the point where they actually redirect how you write it?
Yes. I always start with a pretty well fleshed out outline. Obviously, the first book in a series is the hardest to write because you're getting all the things straight in your own head. The characters, the setting, all of that world building is the hardest in the first book. Coming back to a series for second and subsequent books, it's a lot easier because now you're on familiar territory. It's kind of like visiting old friends. My brain is a really crowded place. And when I have a good outline, there are a lot of things that come up just in the moment. You're writing dialogue and somebody makes a quip that you don't expect and it takes things off in a different direction. Or you write what you thought was going to work and it doesn't. And now you have to look at it and go, okay, that's just not working. We've got to take this a different direction. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to be true to the characters, that helps a lot to guide you to know where to go. So it's not exactly, like channeling a spirit or something. They're still definitely fictional. But, we kind of have a partnership.
Yeah, because I know that talking to Jeannie Koch on one of her books, she said that she was definitely going to be writing this particular angle. She had this whole thing mapped out, and she just hit a roadblock, and she just wasn't getting anywhere. And then, like, one of the characters in her head was like, well, that's because I wanted to do this. Mm-hmm. So she had to, like, scrap a whole chapter and say, okay, well, let me back up and then do it again. And all of a sudden, then she got the rest of it to come out. So it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that. Okay, I know there's a wealth of other material that you've written, and I want to get to that. But before we finally do, the thing that just really just astounds me is, like I said, this incredible universe that you have written. And what I love about it is that each of these books can be read standalone. But it's fun if you get to read them in groups, I think. Mm-hmm. Is there – so I guess it's a two-part question. Is there some sort of a timeline that maybe for people who really are like, avid followers of your universe, me, that kind of get a sense of, okay, follow those books in these particular order because that's something that I would do because, I am that anal retentive. And
it's called geeky, my dear.
Oh, is that it? Oh, okay. Now I know what that word means. And the other thing is,
in this instance,
yeah. And the other thing that really amazes me is for you as a writer, do you have some kind of a timeline? And do each of these individual series do they have a finite number of books? Or are you just open to writing, I think I do want to write another book with Simon and Vic, or something like that?
Well, okay, let me back up and say there is a timeline of the books that is not the timeline of when they were written, but the timeline of when they happened. Mm-hmm. Of all the Gail and Larry and Morgan Brice books, because 3 series I co-write with my husband Larry and Martin, and those are pinned posts in my 2 reader groups. My Worlds of Morgan Brice Facebook group is obviously for the Morgan Brice stuff, and the Shadow Alliance is the reader group for all the other stuff and some of the Morgan Brice stuff. And that timeline is a pinned post in both of those, and I can give that to you if you want.
Oh, I'd love it.
Sure. Come play with us in the groups. It's fun there, too.
I think I will.
But because that's where everybody gets to see the covers first and finds out what I'm working on, and that's where my beta and ARC readers come from. So I love to get new folks in there. In terms of series being open-ended or closed, most of the urban fantasy series are open-ended. Deadly Curiosities, I really don't have a series arc for that. It's very episodic. Witchbane is the closest to having a series arc because there's a definitive task. Mm-hmm. There's a vengeance quest that's happening in that book, and you've got to get all the bad guys.
Right.
It's kind of like hunting Pokemon. So, that does have an end game to it. Everything else, and really we leave that open even because once they finish that quest, well, what are they going to do then? They talk about that, but we don't know. We'll see when we get there. All of the rest of them are, in the urban fantasy series, are open-ended. Now, my epic fantasy series tend to be a defined number of books, and I know that from the get-go, and that's where it's going to go. But with the urban fantasy, as long as people are enjoying them and I'm enjoying them and we're all having fun with it, there's really no reason to stop.
That's nice to know because I'm always eager to read more of this stuff. But since you brought up your husband, let's talk about some of the things that you've done with him. Now, yes, some of those do fall within this series that we talked about, but you write other stuff with him, don't you?
We do. We write Steampunk series, the Jake Desmond Adventures. There'll be another one of those coming out hopefully later this year, and it's got a spin-off with the Storm and Fury Adventures, which are two government agents from the Department of Supernatural Investigation, and that series is getting a Morgan Brice spin-off.
Hey,
this year.
Okay, cool.
Two guys from the Supernatural Secret Service. So if you think about the old TV show Wild Wild West, if Jim and Artie were together, which we all thought they were anyhow, that's going to be the Sharps and Springfield series.
Interesting.
So we're going to get that. There's a near future post-apocalyptic series, Wasteland Marshals, which we actually have a second book coming out in April. And that one is kind of like Boondock Saints meets The Walking Dead. But it's, and I want to stress that just with everything else that's going on, it is not nihilistic. It is not, the good guys win. And that's kind of my, that's my promise with everything I write is the good guys always win. Now, they may be battered and scarred and there are losses along the way and it wasn't an easy journey, but I don't believe in having main characters who are not admirable. Not paladins, not squeaky clean. They make mistakes. They do bad things sometimes for good reasons, but they are heroes. I, as a reader, want to read about heroes. I don't want to read about morally ambiguous, awful people. I have very little free time. I'm not going to waste it hanging out with people that I wouldn't want to hang out with in real life.
Thank you very much.
He just threw his hands up in the air.
Yes, I'm glad somebody else thinks the same way as I do. I mean, we deal with enough moral ambiguity in our regular lives anyway. If I'm going to be taking my free time, watching a television show or reading a book, I don't want to be reading about more of the same kind of moral ambiguity that I'm getting in my real life. I want a diversion, and I'm glad that you do the same thing.
It's not just a diversion. I realize that you might spend a few days or a week with one of my books. I spend months with these people in my head and years in a series. I am not going to hang out with morally reprehensible people as my main characters. Right. I believe that in the long run, good does win. And so I write heroes because heroes inspire us to be a little better.
I like that.
That's where I am.
I like that a lot.
Let me ask kind of make a statement and then ask a question. It's interesting that we have discovered that the people that write male-male romance tend to be women. And Just because, I mean,
that's true.
Suzanne Brockman has comes to mind, and
well, there's Suzanne Brockman, and then another author that I recently reviewed, Charlie Adhara. She wrote, did this werewolf series, Male, and we're seeing a lot of that. That's an interesting point.
So why do you think that is? Just your, I mean, this is not a gotcha question. It's just what is your take on that?
Oh, no, I think about this a lot, and I've spoken on it a lot. Okay, so there is and certainly people read and write for all different reasons. The flippant answer is, what's better than one hot naked guy, two hot naked guys?
I'll agree with that.
I think we can all agree on that. The next flippant answer is, okay, here is a book where as a woman, I don't have to look at the female character and, she's younger, prettier, thinner, bendier. There's no competition. Okay, that's a second flippant answer. Here's what I think is really going on. When you look at characters in a male-male romance, and again, caveat, there's all kinds of stuff out there for any different taste or interest. I'm speaking about what I personally consume and try to write.
Right.
You've got two people who start from an equal place. They start from an equal place of privilege, in the fact that they're both male. They are not defying or needing to escape from the cultural gender roles that are placed on women. And you've got two people who then we can just focus on them as people without the other clutter of, oh, look, she's so plucky. She's not always being, led around. No, she's a person. Let's just talk about two people who are in love with each other and exploring a relationship. And I think that I never read traditional male-female romance because I've never been able to relate to the women in those books. They were either too stupid to live, or I can say that they definitely were, or they were looking to be, taken care of like a child with benefits. They were looking for unhealthy relationships. The relationship dynamics between the women and men are usually awful. And I didn't want any part of it. And then I found, the whole story about how I found / fanfic and then found published male-male romance and said, oh, this is my jam. This is too much fun to not write. And so here I am. Because I loved watching those people fall in love, those two characters in that state of equality that I identified with so much more. And I have read other female authors and readers say the same sort of thing. So yeah, it's an equality thing.
Interesting.
Well, it's nice that you're doing it. I'm so happy that you're doing it. That's one of the things that drew me to your work, because the very first thing that I actually read was Badlands. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered this whole universe, and then I read the afterword and saw, oh, so this person's related to this person, and oh, this person appears in this book. And I thought, okay, well, let me start examining here. So, and a lot of that did stem from the fact that you took this stance, and I'm so glad that you did. Unfortunately, we're running up against the clock because I would love to talk to you some more. So I guess my question would then be, if people want to learn more about what you're working on, you did bring it up earlier, some of your Facebook pages, but is there any other social media presence that people can follow you on and learn about everything that you are doing, either as Gail or as Morgan Brice?
Sure. Websites are easy, gailzmartin.com and morganbrice.com. I'm Gail Z. Martin on Twitter and at Morgan Brice Book on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as Morgan Brice Author. And again, the Facebook groups are where it all happens. So please come join us there.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating.
Oh, I've loved it.
I'm so glad that you could come on our show and be with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Ginny Koch, author of the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series from Daw Books, part of Penguin Random House, and you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks webcast.
Yes, this is the
The
Webcast.
Webcast.
We always have to mention that. Anyway.
Well, that did come from the drinking episode.
Yes, it was the drinking episode. It was like 3 or 4 bottles of wine before the episode.
It's something I look forward to once the great pause has passed. I look forward to us being able to go down to Atlanta and then having another sit-down, dinner, lots of drinking episode with Jeannie.
We'll have dinner before.
And then we do all the heavy drinking.
Exactly. Here's a few selected birthdays for April 27th through May 3rd, 2020. April 27th, Jenna Coleman, actress, Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. The Impossible Girl.
Yep. And then we have Casey Kasem, was DJ, voice actor, best remembered as Shaggy.
Right.
An American Top 40.
This is Casey Kasem.
This is Casey Kasem, yes. And then Mary Wollstonecraft. She was an author, women's rights advocate. She died 11 days after the birth of her daughter, Mary Shelley, who would go on to write Frankenstein. And then we have Russell T. Davies, writer, Queer as Folk, Doctor Who. Did you know that the T stands for nothing?
It's just there?
It's just there. It's to distinguish him from the BBC Two DJ.
He's not, I've heard of other people who have done that. I have a friend who, his name is Cameron, but to differentiate him from other people named Cameron, his parents just gave him the letter J. Not the name, J-A-Y. It's just the letter J in front of Cameron.
What's your
J.
middle?
Cameron Smith.
Yep.
Don't ask why.
And he's also, let's see, what was it? He wanted to be a comic book artist when he was young, but was discouraged since he is colorblind.
Oh, I didn't know he was colorblind.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see, April 28th, we have Oskar Schindler.
Something appropriate about that.
Industrialist, opportunist, subject of Schindler's List, saved over 1,100 Jews during World War II. Terry Pratchett, author, fantasy, and some comical works. Discworld, a 41 book.
Oh, I know.
Or 41 novel series.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. And Jan Oort, a Dutch astronomer, pioneer in the field of radio astronomy. In 1932, he postulated dark matter.
Oh, I didn't realize that was him who did that.
And the Oort cloud was named after him. And then we have Kurt Gödel, logician, mathematician, important contributions to proof theory, published the incompleteness theorems, and it gave light to the if you have 2 apples and 15 magnets, how many pancakes are on the roof of an alien spacecraft?
I hate those things. No.
That's what, when I read what the incompleteness theorem was.
That's what you got in your head.
What? It's like this word salad there, and that's what I came up with. Mm-hmm. Anyway. Then we have Lionel Barrymore, actor from stage to silent pictures to talkies. He was Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life, and he acted in a wheelchair from 1938, invented the boom microphone.
Oh, I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah. And then we have filmmaker friend of ours, Jeff Patton, and filmmaker friend Jordan Blazak. April 29th, Uma Thurman, actress, Kill Bill, almost every Tarantino film.
Pretty much.
Tarantino considers her his muse. And an interesting thing, her father is one of the nation's foremost scholars on Tibetan Buddhism.
Oh.
And the Dalai Lama was a frequent guest to their home.
Wow.
When she was growing up. Then we have Duke Ellington, composer, jazz musician. Oh my gosh, what an incredible talent. Kate Mulgrew, actress, Voyager, Orange is the New Black, Ryan's Hope. After the AT&T breakup in the 80s, she was the face and voice of AT&T. She was the voice of the phone prompts. And there was another actor from Ryan's Hope that we talked about here recently. You and I just...
Well, it's Andrew Robinson who plays Garrick in Deep Space Nine.
They were both on Ryan's Hope.
They played siblings. He was
fascinating.
Frank. He was Frank Ryan, and she was Mary Ryan.
Oh, just interesting. And then Leslie Jordan, actor, out gay man from Sordid Lives. Interesting little thing. He was arrested for drunk driving once and shared a cell with Robert Downey Jr.
I hate to say this, but back in that day, who didn't share a cell with Robert Downey Jr.?
Well, or many other Hollywood actors. April 30th, Gal Gadot.
Wonder Woman.
She had never tried a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup until she tried one on the Jimmy Fallon show.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet that changed her life.
Yep. Johnny Galecki, actor, from Little Fungus to Big Nerd.
Oh, yes.
Christmas Vacation. Also was on Roseanne.
Get away from me, you little fungus.
Exactly. And many stops in between. He was born in Belgium because his father was in the Air Force.
Oh.
And at the age of 10, he used a pin, P-I-N, to poke a hole in his earlobe because his parents wouldn't let him get his ear pierced.
Oh, okay, that's insane.
Exactly.
I bet he regretted that decision almost immediately.
I'm sure. He's screaming bloody murder.
Yeah, blood flying everywhere.
Exactly. Kunal Nayar, actor, Big Bang Theory also, 6 years older than Johnny Galecki. He has a degree in business from the University of Portland.
There's a lot of smart people attached to Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah. He also has a Master of Fine Arts degree from, I think, University of Pennsylvania or something.
You know, there's something really funny about that. You know, like life mimicking art or art mimicking life, however you want to look at it. You know, you've got all these brilliant characters in Big Bang Theory, and then when you get behind the scenes and see what they're like in real life, you know, they have an amazing pedigree.
Some of them, yes. Cloris Leachman, actress. Did you know that in 1975 she played Queen Hippolyta?
Yes, I did.
Woman?
It was actually this was it was the pilot to the Wonder Woman series with oh god, her name went out of my head.
Yeah.
But, you know, the big famous 70s Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was...
Just, as you said it went out of my brain, too.
I know,
it's
but she only
for
played
heaven's
the
sake.
part once, and that was in the pilot movie. From then on, anytime they saw Queen Hippolyta, she was played by Carolyn Jones of the Addams Family.
Interesting. And then there was... she was also in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yes.
As Frau Blücher. Yes. She was also one of only 2 actors to be in The Twilight Zone in the 50s and the 2002 reboot.
Oh.
The other was Bill Mumy.
Of course. And no, I was thinking of somebody else. But yeah, Cloris Leachman, amazing and phenomenal comedian.
Oh, yeah.
The woman is just hilarious.
And then we have Al Lewis. actor.
Wacky Uncle Al.
Yep. He's also all the time referred to as Grandpa Munster.
Yeah.
Although his name on the show was Sam Dracula because he was Lily's father.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
not Herman's father. Eccentric TV host. He was a hot dog vendor for the Brooklyn Dodgers back in the day.
He was eccentric from the moment he was born to the day he died.
Exactly. May 1st, Joanna Lumley.
Oh, you forgot an opera singer.
I'm sorry.
Jared Logan
Porter, opera singer friend of ours. Yes. May 1st, Joanna Lumley.
I
Ab
adore
Fab,
her.
Corpse Bride, Sapphire and Steel, The New Avengers.
Her role in Ab Fab is so funny how she plays this washed-up supermodel, and in real life, Joanna Lumley was a supermodel as well as a Bond girl.
Well, she actually, her character on Ab Fab said she was once a Bond girl. Julian Bond.
I adore her. I love Joanna Lumley. I think the woman is, not only is she absolutely stunningly gorgeous, but she's terribly funny.
Exactly. And she was on Her Majesty's Secret Service. She was the Bond girl in that film. Jack Parr, father of The Tonight Show, became known as The Jack Parr Show, and then back to The Tonight Show when Johnny Carson took over.
Well,
he was also an actor.
Yeah, but I think you can pretty much say Jack Parr was just the father of late-night talk shows, period.
Well, exactly. Funny little thing, before a cigarette sponsor's ad, he took a drag from a cigarette and exclaimed, "Man, that's good coffee."
Oh,
And he also, one time, the censors on set, he walked off the set because he said something about a WC, which was water closet. And they censored him. He walked off the set. And several days later, came after an apology from NBC, came back to a standing ovation.
They censored him for water closet?
Yes. That was the day.
Good grief.
You no euphemism, no
You couldn't
nothing.
even say toilet back then, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Well, this is the day when married couples, if you never
Lived
showed their
in
bedroom,
twin beds.
they had twin beds, you know.
Exactly. God forbid that they should be close.
Oh, I know.
But he also then, after the standing ovation, he said, "As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted."
Hey. Good for him.
And then a friend of ours, Megan Zier. Happy birthday, Megan. May 2nd, Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock.
Actor, wrestler. He was The Rock. Maui in Moana. He once did an I had to chuckle when I read this. He once did
Oh, this good. It's this good, huh?
did an SNL skit as The Rock Obama.
Oh, my word.
I don't know why that it tickles me.
I'm sure we can find that on YouTube somewhere.
Then we have Hedda Hopper, actress turned gossip columnist. In 1938 or 31 is when she became a gossip columnist, and she was a rival of Luella Parsons. In her later years, she played herself, Hedda Hopper, on a ton of things, just bit parts here and there. And her son actually was very popular as Paul Drake on the Perry Mason Show.
Oh, really?
Yep. And then we have Benjamin Spock. No relation to Plain Spock.
No, this is Dr. Spock.
Pediatrician. And if you're of a certain age, your parents probably tried to kill you, according to his book.
Oh, I know, yeah.
David Suchet. Wow.
David Suchet.
I've been drinking coffee this morning. Maybe I need some more. Actor, most famously known for Poirot. He was an extreme method actor, stayed in character when not filming, and also was presented with one of Poirot's mustaches when he retired.
Imagine that.
Theodore Bickel.
I love this man.
Actor, Mr. Worf, or Worf's father.
Worf's father, yes. One of my favorite roles, but I think my absolute favorite, the best thing I've ever seen him in, he played Rabbi Kozlov in a first season episode of Babylon 5.
Oh, yeah.
He had to come and try and help Ivanova to sit Shiva. In memory of her departed father. It's a beautiful episode.
It
and
is.
I just
actor.
Oh, the man
gosh.
is fantastic.
Did lots of things.
We have to remember a very young Theodore Bickel in My Fair Lady.
He played Zoltan Karpathy.
That's right.
And he was actually in African Queen. And did you know that he played Captain Von Trapp on the stage?
That's right, he did on
Broadway.
stage. And just to clarify, on Star Trek: The Next Generation, he played Sergei Roshenko.
Yes. But Rodgers and Hammerstein specifically wrote the song Edelweiss
For him?
for him to sing.
Wow.
He was born in Vienna.
Yeah.
So, wow.
I'm sure it meant a lot for Theodore to sing that.
Exactly. And then we have good friend, the Bionic Geek, Roy
love him.
Roberts.
Love him.
Happy birthday, Roy. May 3rd, Bing Crosby, actor, singer, White Christmas, and a million other things.
Yeah.
Crooner, father of Denise Crosby from Star Trek Next Generation, first season. Ann B. Davis, actress, most known as Alice on the Brady Bunch.
Mm-hmm.
One of 3 actors to appear in every single episode.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was 88 when she died, and actually in very good health. For 88, she fell in her bathroom and hit her head and never regained consciousness.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So, Steven Weinberg, theoretical physicist. We've seen him in Elegant Universe.
Yes.
One of his theories predicted the Higgs boson particle, and there was some interest in another of his theories back in 2008 because it could have been observed by the Large Hadron Collider. So interesting. Betty Comden, writer, songwriter. She wrote Singing in the Rain with Adolph Green, and they wrote tons of tunes together.
Yes.
And tons of things. And then we have, oh my God, Ron Popeil, inventor, marketer. Some might call him a huckster from the 50s. He was the father of the infomercial, if you will. He was the CEO and founder of Ronco, coined the phrase, "But wait, there's more," in the 1950s.
That stayed around in pop culture.
Oh my God!
All the way into I would say the mid to late 70s. You could hear that.
80s
and I
90s.
remember the Ronco commercials. You would see them on the independent channels, not the big network shows, but like those really weird local indie channels.
Yep.
And they're advertising, it slices and dices, blah blah blah. But wait, here's more. There's more. I remember all of that.
It Slices and Dices was the Vegematic that my grandparents had.
Right, I remember that.
They had a Vegematic. They also had the Popeil Pocket Fisherman.
But wait, there's more. And with that,
there's more.
You can get this free ice masher, and it was a hammer.
Exactly. If you call in the next 30 minutes for $1 more.
Oh, God, are we reliving our childhood?
Yes. And then we have friend and actress Zoe de Grand Maison. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
Hi, this is Holly. You're tuned in to Krypton Radio. It's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi.
Go give a listen to our friends over at Krypton Radio. It's a 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Gene Turnbow is the station manager, and he has programmed lots of stuff, including us, on 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
Okay, now it's our feedback time, but before we do that, I have to share just the most amusing thing that happened not 20 seconds ago. I got a text message from Stephen Amell.
Oh, you're kidding.
I'm not joking. He posted on Twitter yesterday, or Saturday, he actually announced his phone number on Twitter. There's an actual video of him doing it, and he dared people text me.
Oh, my gosh.
So I did, and I said, is this really the Stephen Amell? He just texted back to me and said, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's that. Anyway, now is time for feedback, and not a lot. We have a few things to share here. First, this is regarding episode 266. This is we just got back from New York, and we got a comment from Arkle. He says, glad you guys managed to get one more vacation in before we all started living through the stupid version of The Stand.
Exactly.
You're not the first person to say that. And then, oddly enough, this is regarding Ben's gay book breakdown, Deadly Curiosities, the amazing paranormal world of Gail Z. Martin. I got a comment from Fred Taylor on Facebook. He says, interesting. And then got another comment from Peter Alexander. Says, nice covers. And yes, the covers are pretty cool. And then, and I need to add something. I had been chatting with Gail Z. Martin, and she did say that Simon and Vic, the characters from Badlands, and Seth and Evan, the characters from Witchbane, are all having a great time chasing down a killer in Myrtle Beach. That's the book she's working on now.
Oh my gosh.
And I just went, ooh, I can't wait. So I just wanted to share that. And then anyway, moving on. This is regarding missing live opera performances. Pianist plus singer plus quarantine equals living room concert. And this was an amazing experience with Christopher Cano and his wife, whose name just went right out of my head. Jennifer, thank you. And we got a comment from Arizona Opera. They simply said, thanks for sharing. And then we close off with episode 267. Got a comment from Arkle. He says, I think an assumption a lot of viewers of Picard made regarding the Borg cube was that it was going to be an object in the plot as opposed to a setting, a place where the plot happens. I hope this is making sense. Yes, Arkle, you did make a lot of sense, and there is that great possibility, but the showrunners have also said that they left some questions unanswered, so we may get back to that next year.
Exactly. You can leave comments on our Facebook page or our regular page of website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave comments on our YouTube episodes at Twitter and on Instagram, and we'll give you a shout out on a future episode. We also have a listener feedback line that if you want to call and leave us a voicemail, we'll play it on air, and you can be famous too. Call 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. As everybody knows, we are huge supporters of independent creators, whether filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. Especially in this time of isolation and lockdown, please support those independent creators. Go to their websites, buy their books, buy their stuff. Whatever those creators are, we see a lot of them at a lot of the cons. There's some people that do some incredible just artwork and wonderful things, knickknacks, and this and that and the other.
I'm going to name one.
Please support them.
I'm going to name one right now that a lot of people might have heard of, and that's Tony Kim.
Yes.
I mean, he is an independent creator, and he does all of his work. All of his money comes in from doing con appearances.
Yep.
And right now, he's kind of hurting. I mean, I bought I bought an article of clothing from him. It is an object.
An object of clothing.
It's an object of clothing, yes. I did buy something from him, but yeah, it's really important, especially during this time. I mean, everybody's kind of hurting during the Great Pause. Yep. So
Tony Kim is Hero Within. Mm-hmm. Check out their clothing line. They have some really neat stuff, as well as other independent creators. Please consider supporting independent creators. The Joshua Tree Feeding Program is a 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV and AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. They could really use your help right now during the Great Pause. Please consider supporting Joshua Tree either through a single or a monthly recurring gift. Go to jtfp.org. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Hey, we actually have time to do a second segment.
A few minutes.
For a moment.
We have a few minutes.
Yeah. We did, we've watched a couple of things on YouTube.
The show must go on.
The shows must go on.
Shows must go on, yes.
The Andrew Lloyd Webber YouTube channel. And we first watched Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And then we watched Phantom.
Oh, I think we saw Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, Jesus Christ Superstar.
And then we saw
Phantom.
Which,
oh my
God.
Lord. What a performance that was.
That was mind-blowing.
Yeah, the Royal Albert Hall, and it just wow.
It was the finest production of Phantom. I've seen it 3 times. You've seen it twice. Well, I saw it once with my family alone, and then you and I saw it again in San Francisco, and then we saw it a third time here in Tempe at the Gamage. And this was the best production I've ever seen of Phantom of the Opera, and I thought the voices, for the most part, especially for the Phantom and for Christine, I thought they were the best I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, they were really great.
They were amazing. It was fantastic. I would tell people, if you like Andrew Lloyd Webber and if you like the Phantom of the Opera, find this production. You cannot get a soundtrack for it, but you can find it on Blu-ray. So I would definitely do that. It's Phantom of the Opera live at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah, and then this week in memory of the National Remembrance Day, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, we watched Schindler's List. We haven't watched that in
several years
because it's heart-wrenching.
It's a very hard movie to watch.
And I figured
But I'm glad we did.
That we could talk about it since Oscar Schindler's
it's his birthday
this week. It just, wow.
It is.
I just get verklempt
it's a
about
very, very difficult movie to watch.
It is.
It's very accurate. Because I know that Spielberg consulted with a number of people who were survivors of the Holocaust.
Yep.
And some of them actually knew Schindler. So what we saw is a very close representation of the truth as to what went on during that time. This is a very difficult, painful movie to watch, especially having gone to the Holocaust Museum. It's like you can look at places like Auschwitz and say, oh my God, I know what's about to happen here, and just cringe inside in total fear. It's a fantastic movie. I really recommend people watch it. Watch it with a loved one. Talk to people about it afterwards because you're going to need therapy.
Yep.
It's a very difficult movie to watch, but it is a very important movie to watch.
Yep. It is. Never stop asking
Never
why.
stop. And now it's time to run over the things that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com.
Run over them?
Run over them, yeah, with a steamroller. And we are going to have the links for each of these articles on the website. In this, I'm just really firing on all thrusters today. Yeah, we will have the links for each of these articles in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com. Didn't think I'd get that out. Starting with Sunday, April 19th, Dr. Zombie Monster Family Physician number 97. 97 people. Wow. Closing in on 100. Tommy, you've got to have something really amazing for that. And then on Monday the 20th, TG Geeks episode number 270. On Tuesday the 21st, Holocaust Remembrance Day, virtual national commemoration event. On Wednesday the 22nd, HBO Max to launch on May 27th. On Thursday the 23rd, you're going to have to help me on this one. Meet Mona El-Yafi. Very good. Publicist and champagne expert. We know her personally. She's a lovely lady, and she's got some YouTube videos about champagne, which is really interesting.
She was just accredited as a champagne expert.
And then on Friday the 24th, Hamish Downey's 5 Questions with Avery R. Russell. And we close the week off with HBO renews Westworld for a 4th season. We ran that on Saturday the 25th.
Yep. Find it all at tggeeks.com.
Have some shout-outs we need to make. First to the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News, which is put out by the Human Arkle, Brian Weber. You heard a couple of comments from him earlier in this episode. You can find the Post-Dispatch News by finding him on Twitter. You do that by searching for Arkle, at ARKLE. And speaking of that, he has the Arkle Studios on YouTube. He is in his 4th season of Shameless Cash Grab, and he has just started episode 4, Columbus Day. And he should be doing his wrap-up of that in a couple of weeks.
Actually, he's only doing 4 movies this time instead of the 10 that he did last time.
Oh.
And he said he would be doing a wrap-up of this season here in a couple of weeks.
Okay. And then you can find the Shameless Cash Up by going to youtube.com/Arkle Studios. And we must give some shout outs to a couple of Facebook groups for also allowing us to post all of our good stuff there. First, Two Gay Geeks After Hours. Big thanks to the moderators. When I asked if we could share our content, they said, yes, please share away. And their URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours, all one word. And then to The Gay Geek for also allowing us to share all of our wonderful stuff on their page. And their URL is facebook.com/groups/The Gay Geek. And as always, we must give special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And lastly, we can be found, as always, on Spotify.
Spotify, hey!
And Spoo! Find some Spoo there. It's on Spotify.
Is it fresh?
Tune in, Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays, and listen to their other content. Please rate us and review us on iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can listen to our episodes while you surf the internet. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page of things we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From Locked Down, TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Stay home, stay safe, and if you have to go out, wear a mask. Peace.
Cheers.